we visited Chidizini Hospital. There, it was even worse. We found snakes. The nurses have left and vacated the nursing rooms because of snakes, which afflicted that area. Our district, the Alpheus Madiba district, came on board. We want to thank them again. And came on board. We discussed with hospital management. They came to clean the hospital and also to cut grass. And that began to restore confidence for the nurses to come back to stay in hospital. But it was worse than that. We even found that there was no medication. So that is why the health committees that we have said must be established as part of our health campaign are important, because they can assist the party structures to understand the difficulties that our communities are going through. Because at aggregate level, when government reports, we report very good progress. But when you go to the nitty-gritties, you find that there are serious difficulties. That's the same thing that happened when we went to Mutse, for instance, when there was a crisis there in Mpumalanga. The people say they don't have water. And we don't understand this thing. This thing causes massive problem, crisis, that actually divided our people there. We visited that area as the Alliance leadership, Comrade Begin Chalinchali from Kosatu and Comrade Gwere Mantash of the ANC. We worked there for almost 7 days. We discovered that actually the source of the problem. In 1996, that was one of the first areas there that government rolled out the provision of running water, clean running water in the communities. The community even have this massive storage right inside them. But all of a sudden, there was no water flowing to the communities. The taps were closed and welded. And later on, a tender was issued for what we call water cans, the water cans, these big trucks that carries water. And the tender was given to some councillors. It created a serious problem. Now, these councillors, instead of, when they are given a tender, for instance, let's say they will say you will supply 100, let's say 100 trucks per week that will come in and drop water here. They get that, but they only do 10 rounds. The community start complaining. There's no monitoring. Our comrade becomes arrogant. The same thing we found when we went to Winterfeld. Same problems. Corruption at the core of it. For public services, social services to our people, there must be no compromise from the Communist Party when our comrades are doing wrong. Whether it's our comrades in government or anyone else, we must never accept any wrongdoing against our people as a Communist Party. And this thing exposed to us how this particular question of the national health insurance, for instance, has been undermined. When we tried to intervene with the department, the health department, one comrade said, no, but comrade, I hear you. You are trying to do this thing, but you know, there's more problem. When we're attending the Chidizini crisis, for instance, they said, no, the provincial guys. There's more problem here at Polokwane Hospital. So we have to come out as a Communist Party, a strong campaign to make sure that the government can implement the national health insurance, and we need to support the minister in doing this, in implementing this particular program, and deal with bureaucracy in government. that may collude with private sector to stall the appropriate rollout of this campaign that we struggled for as the Communist Party. Again, comrades, we're raising a campaign that should continue across the board on international struggles, solidarity programs and campaigns. NEHAO has been doing very well in this regard. We want to thank them. Comrade President of NEHAO, we should also recognize you as President of the World Federation of Trade Unions from our own shores. We appreciate that. I also know there's this Africa President of that section. When it comes to state of our provinces, comrades, we are indicating that all our provinces are still intact. This is one term where, for instance, no single province was disbanded. The chairperson of the National Disciplinary Committee, Comrade Jenny Schreiner, never had a single case referred to the National Disciplinary Committee for adjudication. The former chairperson was Comrade Ben Martins. And he says, yeah, then there must be a problem. She must go looking for these cases. But that was a good reflection, comrade, of a level of discipline within the ranks of the party. If we can consolidate that, it will remain an important moral force in our struggle. And therefore, it's very important for that. I'm not going to go into the details about provinces, comrade, provincial activities, provincial secretaries, please. Don't crucify me for this. It's too much detail. But we must thank our comrades. Even this is just a summary of many activities. We continue to give detailed reports every year through the augmented central committee that goes into each district and so forth and so forth. We try to summarize and take perhaps the most important to reflect in this Congress. Otherwise, we would have had to have several appendages to this report just to reflect provincial activities. Now, we want to also indicate, comrades, the state of our revolutionary alliance. The alliance is not in good shape as we speak. But at the same time, it's important to note that we should not just judge it by the moment. There's been a period, we are reporting over a period of time. We can say what has deteriorated the relationship in the alliance has been misbehavior by some of our comrades. In particular, I will talk to this particular question later on, of what happened since 2012 in the alliance relations. We have had several summits, for instance. One of the summits that took about 5 days, its main task was to discuss politics and nothing else. I must indicate to this Congress, on behalf of the 13th Congress Central Committee, that in that summit, the Communist Party had argued in the preparatory meetings of that summit that we want to discuss the notion of the second more radical phase of the National Democratic Revolution. That was our agenda item. And we prepared the document called Going to the Root. We presented it to the Alliance. That document speaks to this question of radical socio-economic transformation that is now so fashionable that if you don't talk about it, you are not a comrade. We put it on the agenda as a South African Communist Party. the alliance had no appetite to engage with this. This item fell off. We went to a summit of exhaling, where we spoke out our minds. Little did we know that actually the call for that engagement was deliberate. Instead of dealing with the real problem, we were then isolated, and we were now targeted as the Communist Party, even COSATU, because COSATU in that meeting also spoke out clearly about the issues affecting our movement. The summit of 2015 resolved against corporate capture of the state as a threat to our national democratic revolution. This is an alliance meeting. A couple of months later, the president of the ANC addresses the PGC of the ANC in Gauteng. And he says, what is this thing called capture of the state? Are we captured? Basically, pouring cold water on a decision of the alliance, which he leads. Now, this is very critical, comrades, because when the challenges are deepening and the contradictions are sharpening inside our movement, the Communist Party will have done its best politically to provide clarity ideologically and to analyze the political moment. And we would have shared our ideas with our partners in the alliance. And when this thing happened, there was no one from the ANC leadership that defended the decision of the alliance. Even after we suffered a massive setback, and we are glad that at the ANC policy conference, the president reading the NEC's message alluded to this fact that indeed we suffered a setback in the local government election, because there's been a denial on this fact. And the reality is that losing over 70% of municipal budget is no child's play. Because a budget is an instrument in the hands of the democratic movement to radically transform the lives of the people. If you lose that kind of capacity, it's not a small thing. That is then the Communist Party put to the table again, to the alliance, the notion of the National Consultative Conference. It was again, they didn't agree with us. But then, people mustn't say, we didn't put these proposals on the table. We put this proposal on the table. It was not agreed. Later on, we heard the ANC Youth League saying, yes, we want the consultative conference. We will clean out the people we don't agree with. And we said, no, that's not what we called for. That's why we said, we don't want a shootout in an ANC conference where one faction fights against the other. We want a full conference of the African National Congress that can take decisions to strengthen the national democratic revolution and to strengthen itself as an instrument of the people of this country. This matter later on, as you know, will be taken up by the veterans of our movement, and they had discussions with the leadership of the ANC. At some point, according to our understanding, this was agreed. Later on, it was reverted to. So we'll talk to this last question on this one when we talk about our engagements with the veterans of our movement. The General Secretary welcomed them yesterday here when he was opening Congress. But the bottom line, comrade, is to indicate that we had 2014 elections as well as 2016 elections, we fought them together as the alliance. The Communist Party, as usual, has always been a reliable ally of all these formations of our movement. And our cadres work tirelessly. We want to thank you for that, for your tireless efforts to strengthen the National Democratic Revolution. Of course, last in 2016, we then convened Provincial Alliance Summit to try and deal with the problems that were afflicting the alliance, particularly alliance relations, particularly at the lower levels. Because despite that there were difficulties at the national level, for the first 3 years, the alliance was working very well, particularly responding to challenges. Implementation will be different. That is why, for instance, even when we withdrew Comrade Joyce from Parliament, we didn't make a big noise about it. But we had raised all the fundamental issues. And these are some of the things that, in the absence of dealing with them, they've contributed in the deterioration in the relationship within the alliance. We've had several bilateral with COSATU. Over these last 5 years, for instance, there was a period which was very, very difficult, where, for instance, we would have meetings with COSATU leadership and the General Secretary of COSATU will not arrive, continue to give different excuses. Because COSATU itself was undergoing a very difficult period. Now we have reconnected, we are able to have full meetings and so forth. We have agreed on a joint program that must be rolled out with all of COSATU affiliates. That is at the federation and party level. That program is important. The task team working on this program, which deals with a wide range of issues, including the national health insurance and against corporate capture of the state, for a living wage campaign. All of those are important campaigns that will be rolling out jointly with COSATU. Of course, comrades, we have always also begun to engage much more seriously with our comrades in SANCO. They have also undergone very difficult periods, but they are relatively stable. And the alliance has been able to engage with the issues afflicting SANCO particularly. And we have also dealt with some of the specific cases within the unions. The problems in SATAU, for instance, very, very difficult period for SATAU. Our General Secretary led the process to try and keep unity within SATAU, as we did with various processes when COSATU was facing difficulties. At some point, for instance, you'll remember that even NUMSA, before it was expelled, in fact, at the time that NUMSA was expelled from COSATU, we had met more with NUMSA than with any affiliate of COSATU as the Communist Party. We were working very hard to build that union and to unify that union and to keep it inside COSATU. But we now know that at the end, towards its expulsion, a narrative was created to the extent that we were responsible for it, when we were not. In fact, it was NUMSA at some point that issued in public the rejection to meet with us, when we're continuing to engage with them. So this is very important for our members to know, because an impression is created outside and we get blamed for it when we're not responsible for it. We intervened at some point jointly with the office bearers of COSATU, President Dumodlamini, the General Secretary and other officials, the Deputy President and so forth, to try and keep SATAU together. We could not succeed. But that work to continue to build that union remains important, and many other affiliates of COSATU. We also therefore, comrade, give you a feedback about related institutions, the Chris Hani Institute, Financial Sector Campaigns Coalition, Now, I must also tell you, because the Financial Sector Campaigns Coalition, Comrade Tibelo, one comrade is here, he's a councillor at Nelson Mandela Metro. He's blacklisted. He can't buy a house. Comrade Tibelo, when I finish speaking, this comrade must come here, you must meet him here, you and him must meet here, so that you are able to attend to that particular problem directly. Because there should be no reason for that. We fought very hard to remove the names of our people from the credit bureau. Mapaila, when we launched this campaign on the transformation of the financial sector campaign, we even said at some point, good, no, you never knew good lento go to a credit bureau, iapila, ikona. And we actually even discovered that there were more than 11 credit bureaus. We thought it was one, they were sectoral. So we exposed them. This campaign has been significant for the working class. We have recently passed legislation through Comrade Rob at the DTI that wiped out these adverse records in the credit bureau. So that comrade who's now a councillor cannot be denied by the financial institutions to have a right to buy a house or to buy a car. It should not happen. So we are highlighting here the work of that particular campaign. This remains one of our most important campaigns, comrade, going forward, because at the heart of this campaign was our struggle against monopoly capital in South Africa, which is highly financialized. The mining houses, for instance, most of them are owned by financial institutions. Many other...
All right, well, those were live visuals from Boksburg at the SACP's 14th Elective Congress. And Mapaila there has just addressed the members, talking about some of the challenges that still have not yet been addressed when it comes to the basic service delivery on things like water and electricity. He strongly condemned the inaction of government when it comes to this and lambasted the corrupt tender processes when awarding contracts. He also said that government needs to implement the policies like the National Health Insurance, and that the SACP must fully support the minister in order to ensure the implementation of these. And on the alliance, he said it's not in good shape at the moment, and said that they should not judge it by what is currently happening now, saying that what started this whole deterioration within the partnership was the misbehavior of some members within that alliance. He says there's been deliberate isolation of them as an alliance, and then now they are being targeted. He also said this was further evident when ANC President Jacob Zuma poured cold water on state capture allegations at the recent policy conference out in Nazareth, yet there is sound proof of this actually taking place. He also said they are now trying to engage with the alliance and of course on the challenges that are currently facing them. These were just some of the outcomes from that brief. It's still ongoing, but right now let's have a quick look at some of the news headlines.